because I think his story is told. It's over.
You really rebelled, I guess, against that, didn't you?
A little.
Yeah.
They can publicize their own film.
The X-Men have turned their backs on Disney, and they're not doing it quietly. After Disney tried to slash their salaries, the entire cast is fighting back in ways no one expected. But it's what they're planning to do next that could leave Disney's universe in ruins. Let's break it down. The mass exodus begins. After years of anchoring a billion-dollar franchise, from First Class to Dark Phoenix, and redefining what superhero storytelling could look like, the cast of X-Men has finally quit. And the breaking point? Disney tried to cut their salaries. But here's the most shocking part. These were not negotiation breakdowns. According to people close to the matter, these lowball offers were part of a calculated studio strategy to flush out old talent and replace them with cheaper, more controllable actors under the illusion of a multiverse reshuffle. And it's not subtle anymore. Let's start with James McAvoy, who's been unusually cagey, even aggressively dismissive, in recent appearances when asked about the franchise that made him a household name. In one clip, he throws subtle shade at the marketing machine surrounding X-Men McAvoy.
Do you know what? I'm not here to talk about that. They can publicize their own film.
There I go. I got my quote. It's all I need.
Who once raved about the X-Men opportunity and even signed on for the original trilogy with only 60 pages of script in hand, isn't even pretending to be excited now.
Nobody tells me that there's only like 60 pages of it at this point. But it's good, but it's incomplete and you don't really know where it's going.
Back then, he was eager. It was close to home. The money was good. He was all in. Now, when asked again on tour, he doesn't even say no comment. He says they can do their own damn PR, and it's not just him. Michael Fassbender, ever the professional, ever restrained, let the cracks show when describing the arc of Magneto in Dark Phoenix. And listen closely. He wasn't just talking about Magneto.
Checked out a little bit from the friendship.
I just don't have the energy for the we send at each other.
That is a veteran actor tired of the system, tired of the studio spin, the rewritten scripts, the corporate micromanagement, and now Disney offering him a contract that reportedly was less than what he made for Apocalypse nearly a decade ago. And remember, Dark Phoenix may have stumbled critically, but these actors were still its beating heart. Fassbender's Magneto had a depth rarely seen in superhero villains, a revolutionary with grief baked into every line. Now, Disney treats him like a prop. They expect the same soul, same gravity, same effort, for half the pay. No wonder he looks like he's checked out. Even Sophie Turner, who once called Jean Grey her childhood favorite and said she studied schizophrenia and addiction to understand the character's internal collapse, is rumored to have turned down a recent cameo offer. And can you blame her? She once threw herself into this role, telling press she studied mental illness for months before even stepping on set.
We wanted to study mental illness for it, specifically schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder, and addiction.
Now imagine going from that emotional investment to a call from a Disney producer saying, hey, how about a 45-second cameo for a fraction of your usual quote? Humiliating. Even Nicholas Hoult, who brought both sweetness and sadness to Beast, reportedly ghosted follow-up negotiations after Disney offered him what one source called a glorified extra rate for a potential future appearance. These aren't just actors with hurt feelings. These are artists who, for over a decade, shouldered a franchise that made billions during a time when Marvel wasn't a guaranteed hit machine. They helped build the bridge that led to Endgame, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness. Without First Class, Marvel's current dominance might look very different, and now Disney thinks they're disposable. In one of the most revealing group interviews from the Dark Phoenix press tour, you can almost feel the discomfort as cast members are asked whether they're excited to return.
We would always CGI them together. We've never met each other.
I haven't taken any painkillers because I'm doing press, so I am in a really good mood right now.
Oh my God. Sarcastic, awkward, tired. Even on Jimmy Kimmel, where stars usually glow with rehearsed charm, you can see the emotional fatigue. This isn't just about contracts. This is about respect. Because while Disney hands out $300 million budgets for new MCU entries and overpays unknowns to build new brand equity, the people who made X-Men relevant to this generation are being shown the door, cheaply, silently, insultingly. And it's not just the main cast. Patrick Stewart, gone. In one of the most emotional interviews of his career, Sir Patrick Stewart confirmed that not only was Logan his goodbye, it was a decision that came to him suddenly while watching the film itself.
It was a spontaneous and unexpected decision. The ending is perfect.
Yes.
But it will be the working relationship with all the people over these 17 years.
And let's be honest, if they'd made him the right offer, he might have come back. But instead of honoring the legacy that helped define the genre, Disney has opted to gut it, recast it, and reboot it for profit. And the talent, they're done. If there was any hope left that the cast might return for even a send-off, a final cameo, a multiverse goodbye, a passing of the torch, that hope is gone. Because behind the red carpets and reunion panels, the fractures in the cast cast's trust have been widening for years. And now that Disney's tried to undervalue them one last time, the cracks have become a cave-in. Let's talk about Jennifer Lawrence, a megastar who brought both fire and gravitas to Raven Mystique. There was already tension during the Dark Phoenix press tour. You can see it. In the Jimmy Kimmel Live appearance, Lawrence casually confirms what the studio tried to downplay. Raven dies in the movie, and it wasn't some heroic swan song. It was a written-off death that even her castmates didn't seem fully on board with.
This is not a spoiler, but we know that Jennifer's character Raven gets killed in this movie, and I wonder if that was emotional for any.
It was.
Watch the body language. No one cheers. No one says it was poetic or emotional. The cast stares blankly. Lawrence tries to lighten the mood, even jokes that Sophie Turner cried only because her vape was taken away before the take.
Because she really was crying because her dialect coach right before the take took her jewel away.
Let's translate. Nobody was happy with how that scene was handled. And that's how Disney has treated key characters. Reduce their arcs, kill them off, and move on like nothing happened. Then there's the absurd production chaos. Remember the golf cart incident? It sounds like a behind-the-scenes blooper, but it reveals just how physically unhinged and unsafe some of the productions were, especially for a billion-dollar franchise with A-list talent.
My standout moment was probably when I nearly broke both his legs one day driving a golf cart.
Yes, James McAvoy nearly shattered Michael Fassbender's legs during a chaotic on-set moment. What's telling is how McAvoy laughs about how everyone blamed Fassbender because of where he landed in the cart. You can hear the fatigue, the lack of oversight, the kind of who's really in charge here energy that defines these later-era productions. And yet Disney wants these same actors to return and hit the mark for less pay than their 2010 rates? Get real. Even the lighter moments from interviews reveal the deep exhaustion behind the scenes. Nicholas Hoult, buried daily under hours of blue makeup to play Beast, described the full-body heat exhaustion and how he'd literally sweat from his ears. But his way of coping? Looking in the mirror during bathroom breaks and saying to himself,
You poo too.
It's funny, but it's also a coping mechanism. These actors were literally melting inside chemically treated suits, while Disney execs brainstormed ways to replace them with market-friendly TikTok stars. This is a pattern. It's a studio-wide disease that treats loyalty like a liability and replaces legacy with hashtags. Disney's Mutant Meltdown. So now we know, the X-Men cast didn't just leave, they revolted. They walked out of the reboot, not quietly, not politely, but with enough smoke to choke the PR machine Disney had built around this relaunch. But this isn't just about one cast. This is part of a disturbing pattern, one that's been infecting every corner of Marvel since the Disney takeover of Fox. And in 2024, the cracks in the dam have gone from leaks to a full-on rupture. Let's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, the supposed crown jewel of Marvel's mutant revival. And more specifically, let's talk about Channing Tatum. If there's anyone who deserved a hero moment, it's him. For 2 decades, he fought to bring Gambit to life on screen. The Cajun accent, the card-flinging charm, the trench coat. He lived it. He trained for it. He waited. And what did Disney do with all that dedication? They bought Fox, shelved the movie, and basically told him, you're not part of the plan. In his own words, Channing put it bluntly.
He took Gambit out of truly like the grave. Like it was just nothing and nowhere.
That's not hyperbole. Channing had already developed the film. He was cast, locked in pre-production. There was a budget, a director, sets were being designed. And then, boom, canceled, just like that. Because Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel, told him to his face.
I love Gambit. I just don't know how to do it right now. Like, I don't know how he fits into what we're doing.
So instead of honoring a 20-year journey, Disney sat on Gambit like it was a forgotten file folder. No updates, no rewrites, no apology, silence. Until Ryan Reynolds, doing more for Marvel's legacy than the executives themselves, fought to get Channing into Deadpool and Wolverine. And finally, he appears. Not as a lead, not as the star of his own movie, but a cameo, a single sequence. Tatum said it best himself when they asked what he was promised.
I've only been guaranteed so far a chair to watch the movie in.
A chair. Let that sink in. After 2 decades of trying to bring Gambit to screen, Disney offered Channing Tatum a chair. And this wasn't some weird exception. It's not a one-off. This is the modus operandi now. Big stars are being minimized. Loyal actors are ghosted. Creative visions are being shoved into formulaic boxes to fit the plan. That plan? It's collapsing. Because Deadpool and Wolverine, the one project that should be a slam dunk, is already haunted by legacy missteps. And Channing's not the only one who feels it. Look at what he said when they finally asked him to put on the costume.
It's actually like, I gotta get him really emotional.
And he does, on camera. You can see the devastation in his face. Not from joy, but from the bitterness of being sidelined for so long. And you know what made it happen? Not Disney. Ryan Reynolds. Ryan, who's seen firsthand what studio red tape does to passion. Projects forced this moment into the movie, because otherwise it never would have happened. Channing Tatum wouldn't be in Deadpool and Wolverine at all if it were up to the studio, just like Patrick Stewart wouldn't be back if Logan hadn't made him quit first. And Stewart's reason for walking away, it wasn't just age, it was finality.
It was a spontaneous and unexpected decision, but it will be the working relationship that I have respected.
Even Sir Patrick, with all his grace and class, couldn't help but hint that something had changed, that something was lost, that working under Disney just didn't feel the same. And now Disney wants to bring these actors back for the multiverse, with no safety upgrades, no respect, and half the pay. Do you see the pattern yet? It's not just mishandled contracts. It's a culture of corporate disrespect, studios obsessed with IP over people. And the most insulting part? They think we won't notice. They think fans won't care who plays Jean Grey, Magneto, Charles Xavier, as long as the Marvel logo flashes and the visual effects sparkle. But they're wrong, because the fans, the real ones, they care about the characters. And they know that these actors, McAvoy, Fassbender, Turner, Holt, Tatum, brought heart and pain and complexity to the screen. You can't just replace that. Not with TikTok stars, not with influencers, and certainly not with cheaper contracts. Let's talk recasting. Let's talk Hugh Jackman. He's back in Deadpool and Wolverine. He's shredded. He looks incredible. He's the best he's ever been as Logan. But here's the problem Disney never thought about. He's too good. When fans see Hugh Jackman return in full form, no limp, no gray beard, no death arc, they're going to ask one thing: why replace him at all? And that's where Disney might have walked into its own trap. Because once this film drops, and Jackman is in peak form again, it becomes impossible to convince audiences that some younger, cheaper, contract-friendly replacement should take his place in the MCU. One YouTube creator already said it plainly.
He still looks like he could play Wolverine today, like without missing a step. So with that being said, I'm just wondering, is Disney shooting themselves in the foot by having Hugh Jackman do a good job in Deadpool and Wolverine?
This isn't just about nostalgia. It's about Disney painting itself into a corner. They want to move on. They want to rebuild the X-Men from scratch. They want to recast Logan, Xavier, Magneto, Storm. But when your old actors are still better than anything new you've teased, how do you justify the swap? And audiences are starting to notice. There's already backlash over the Fantastic Four casting, a lineup so underwhelming that even casual Marvel fans are scratching their heads. That same YouTuber summed up the confusion perfectly.
All I know is the Pedro Pascal guy. I don't know the other actors.
Think about that. Even now, with all the money, reach, and marketing Disney has, their new castings aren't connecting. And the X-Men cast, the one they've just lost, they were connecting for over a decade. That's the core of this problem. Disney is trying to replace depth with gloss, substance with CGI, loyalty with loyalty-free contracts. And the people who built the franchise, they're being buried in silence. Let's go back to Dark Phoenix one more time, because that press tour was screaming for help. The entire cast, McAvoy, Fassbender, Turner, Chastain, Holt, were shuffled through interviews, joking their way through clear exhaustion and disillusionment. Want proof? Check this moment on Kimmel, when Jessica Chastain jokes about a horse hitting her wheel. The whole exchange feels like a surreal cry for help. Even the lighthearted segments were laced with tension. James McAvoy admitting he nearly broke Fassbender's legs in a golf cart.
He was thrown into the driving seat, and because of that, everybody blamed him.
Yes, it's funny, but it's also telling. They were physically burned out, mentally checked out. And when Disney came knocking, offering them a spot in the multiverse for a pay cut and no creative input, they walked. So let's step back. You're a performer. You give your life to a franchise. You do the press. You sit through 5 a.m. makeup. You wear blue fursuits. You study psychology and trauma for your character. You get hurt. You get typecast. And then the studio calls you years later and says, hey, want to pop into our new movie for 45 seconds and 1/3 your original rate? What would you say? Because every X-Men cast member said the same thing. No more lowball offers. No more emotional manipulation. No more pretending these characters can be rebooted like logos. They gave everything. They left it all on the screen. And now with Disney trying to erase their legacy, the cast is walking out before they're pushed. And you know what? The audience is starting to follow. The fans turn on Disney. This isn't just about angry actors or underpaid talent or decades of loyalty thrown away for a few budget line items. No, this is about the fans finally waking up. Look no further than the reaction to Deadpool and Wolverine. For months, Disney leaned hard on Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman to carry the mutant torch forward. But the fans, they saw what was happening behind the scenes. They saw Channing Tatum getting a pity cameo instead of a real shot. They saw Patrick Stewart vanish with dignity, while the MCU scrambled to recast characters no one asked for replacements for. And they saw saw something else, that the old cast was never the problem. You can feel it in the audience comments under every behind-the-scenes clip from Dark Phoenix. Let's look at what that set was really like. You remember the Kimmel segment, right? Not the flashy trailer rollout, not the scripted hype, the part where the actors show up wounded, exhausted, and still forced to sell the movie, like this moment.
I had surgery on Friday, and I haven't taken any painkillers because I'm doing press, so I am in a really good mood right now.
That wasn't acting. That was barely concealed burnout. These were A-list stars, the faces of Marvel's most emotionally resonant saga, and they were being run like marathoners with no finish line. It gets worse. Listen to how the production was handled, how scenes that looked powerful on screen were barely structured chaos behind the camera. Here's what Sophie Turner revealed about one of Dark Phoenix's biggest action set pieces.
And they would have to stop right in front of me, where I would be like, oh my god, is my hand going? Am I going to break my hand?
This was Marvel's X-Men, one of the most powerful characters in the franchise, led by an actor who prepped using clinical research and character study. And they couldn't even guarantee her safety during a wire stunt. And now the studio thinks it can just swap her out, bring in someone cheaper, flashier, more brand flexible. That's not just foolish, it's offensive. Especially when you consider what Sophie said about why Jean Grey mattered to her in the first place.
Jean Grey. And I'm not lying, she really was. The first ever comic book I read was the Dark Phoenix comic book.
She wasn't just playing a superhero, she was living a dream. So when fans hear that Disney tried to bring her back for a multiverse cameo, offering her less than she made on Game of Thrones, it's not a negotiation, it's an insult. And this is the same playbook they used with other veterans. Michael Fassbender? Lowball offer, ghosted them. James McAvoy? Shrugged off the reboot entirely, didn't even pretend to promote the idea. Jennifer Lawrence? Killed off early and unceremoniously, with zero press support from the studio after it happened. But the most chilling part of this collapse? It was predicted by Sir Patrick Stewart himself. In an interview, he explained why he finally let go of Professor X, even after 2 decades. And the reason wasn't fatigue or boredom. It was a sense that the story was done. The journey had ended. Anything after that, it would just be backtracking.
I think his story is told. It's over. And the ending is perfect. Yes. But it will be the working relationship with all the people over these 17 years that I have respected and admired so much.
That kind of clarity, that kind of respect. For the narrative, it's exactly what Disney is missing. Instead of honoring endings, they're afraid of them. Instead of respecting character arcs, they're flattening them into IP templates. So what happens now? The answer? Panic. Because without these cast members, Disney's X-Men has no soul. And now the fans are feeling it too. Just look at the YouTube comment sections on new Marvel trailers. Look at the viral tweets, the side-by-side comparisons of First Class and the new cast rumors. And most of all, look at the silence, the absence of hype, the void where audience trust used to be, and now even the actors don't want to talk about it. James McAvoy said it best, without saying anything at all.
Do you know what? I'm not here to talk about that. They can publicize their own film.
And that's exactly what Disney's doing now, trying to publicize a film with no cast left to stand behind it. The fans have started tuning out, the cast has walked away, and the studio, still scrambling. But here's the part Disney didn't plan for, the part they couldn't schedule in a content calendar. Deadpool might be the last Marvel film that people trust. And even that trust, it's hanging by a thread, because Deadpool and Wolverine isn't just a movie, it's become a makeshift graveyard for discarded dreams. Channing Tatum's long-lost gambit, Patrick Stewart's once-closed chapter, Hugh Jackman's full circle return, bits of the past Frankensteined into one Hail Mary of a film. And while fans are excited, they're not stupid. They know this isn't a master plan, it's a salvage operation. They see Disney plugging in nostalgic cameos not out of love, but because the future looks emptier than ever. And the cast? Even they know the weight being dropped on this one movie is enormous. Let's go back to the Kimmel Live segment, the one meant to promote Dark Phoenix with laughs and smiles. Instead, what we got was a live display of fatigue, pain, resentment even. Here's Jennifer Lawrence talking about her character's death.
This is not a spoiler, but we know that Jennifer's character Raven gets killed in this movie.
The vibe, not grief, not reflection, just blunt acknowledgement. It was done, over, and no one on that couch looked proud of it. In fact, listen to what she says next.
Because she really was crying because her dialect coach right before the take took her jewel away.
They were joking about death scenes. Why? Because when your character's arc is decided in boardroom slides, the only thing left to do is laugh. But fans didn't laugh. They saw saw through it. They knew something was wrong. And now, as the Deadpool and Wolverine promo train kicks into overdrive, Disney wants everyone to forget how they got here. Forget that Michael Fassbender, the most layered villain Marvel ever had, is nowhere to be seen. Forget that James McAvoy is on a completely different project, one that conveniently overlaps with Marvel's shooting schedule. Forget that Evan Peters, Ty Sheridan, Alexandra Shipp, and Cody Smith-McPhee have all gone silent. None of them are coming back. Not because they died on screen, but because they were priced out, burned out, or shut out. And now, Disney's left with what's left. Which brings us to the most painful question of all. What happens after Deadpool? Because once the credits roll, the cameos fade, and the nostalgia dies down, what's next? The new X-Men? The recast Fantastic Four? A wave of characters nobody's emotionally attached to? The fans aren't sold. YouTubers are skeptical. Reddit's full of casting backlash. Comment sections under every trailer are filled with comparisons to the Fox-era team, the team Disney threw away. And even the few cast members left, they're barely talking about it. Let's go back to one more clip, and this one sums up exactly what this cast has been feeling. When asked about his relationship with McAvoy's Charles Xavier, Michael Fassbender says it all.
Still think that Charles is Eric's best friend.
I just don't have the energy for the we stand at each other.
He wasn't talking about Charles and Eric. He was talking about himself, about how exhausting it is to pretend everything is fine, when behind the scenes, it's anything but. And now, fans are the same way. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, keep the adventure alive by clicking on one of the suggested videos on your screen right now for more amazing content.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
Jeremy Renner isn't just frustrated. He's calling out Disney, and he's not the only one. Behind the scenes, Marvel stars have been clashing with the studio, and the pressure is finally starting to show. Now, all eyes are on CEO Bob Iger, as the company faces growing backlash from its biggest names. From lawsuits to quiet rebellion, something's not right at the top, and Iger's job is at stake. In this video, I will be pulling back the curtains on what's really going on with Disney's leadership and its biggest stars. The Jeremy Renner controversy that started it all. At the center of this storm about the Disney CEO getting fired is none other than Jeremy Renner, the actor who's wielded Hawkeye's bow and arrow since his brief cameo in 2011's Thor. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the current controversy, let's rewind the clock to understand the full context of Renner's complicated relationship with Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Renner's journey as Clint Barton hasn't always been smooth sailing. Back in 2016, during a Quanda session in London, he publicly revealed something rather shocking. During the filming of 2012's The Avengers, he was actually lobbying for his character to be killed off. Feeling frustrated with Hawkeye's limited role, especially after being hypnotized by Loki early in the film, Renner was genuinely dissatisfied and frustrated with how his character was being utilized. The actor revealed that his frustration manifested in some pretty dramatic on-set behavior. He reportedly would fake heart attacks during filming, telling director Joss Whedon, "If you just want to kick me out of this movie, Daddy's going to be having a heart attack." It seemed like Renner was genuinely contemplating an exit from the franchise before it had truly begun for his character. Fast forward to 2015, and Renner found himself embroiled in another controversy during the press tour for Avengers Age of Ultron. When asked about fans shipping Black Widow with different Avengers, Renner called Scarlett Johansson's character a slut, and his co-star Chris Evans added that she was a complete whore. The comments, while intended as humor, sparked significant backlash on social media, with fans and critics accusing both actors of sexism. Both Renner and Evans eventually issued apologies, with Renner describing his remarks as tasteless and juvenile. However, when he appeared on Conan to discuss the incident, he seemed less than contrite, saying, "I got in a lot of internet trouble. I guess that's a thing now you can get in." His somewhat flippant response only added fuel to the fire. Despite these bumps in the road, Renner's role in the MCU continued to expand, culminating in his own Disney Plus series, Hawkeye, which premiered in 2021. The show paired him with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop and was generally well received by fans and critics alike. It seemed like Renner had finally found his footing as Hawkeye, and the character had received the development he deserved. But then, tragedy struck on New Year's Day 2023. In a life-altering incident that made headlines worldwide, Renner was involved in a catastrophic accident involving a 330-pound piston bully snow groomer at his Lake Tahoe, Nevada home. The details of the accident are nothing short of horrifying. Renner was attempting to stop the snowplow from sliding toward his nephew when he failed to engage the parking brake or disengage the steel tracks. As he tried to climb back into the cab, he was pulled under the moving tracks and run over by the massive vehicle. The injuries Renner sustained were devastating. 38 broken bones, including 14 rib fractures, a broken cheekbone, and a shattered eye socket. He also suffered a collapsed lung, a pierced liver, and significant facial and chest injuries. His left eyeball was even dislodged. Renner required multiple surgeries and spent over 2 weeks in intensive care. In his memoir, My Next Breath, he revealed that his heart rate slowed to the point of death during the 30 minutes he lay on the ice, describing it as the moment he died before being revived. Amazingly, Renner's recovery progressed well enough that by April 2023, just a few months after the accident, he was able to attend the premiere of his Disney Plus series, Renovations. By January 2025, marking the second anniversary of the accident, Renner expressed gratitude to the medical staff, first responders, and his nephew, acknowledging the army of people who helped him survive this horrific ordeal. Given all that Renner had been through, you might think that Disney would be eager to work with him again once he felt ready to return to acting. And indeed, it seems they were, but not on terms that the actor found acceptable. In a bombshell interview with High Performance Podcast in May 2025, Renner revealed something that has set off this current firestorm of controversy. According to the actor, Disney approached him about returning for a second season of Hawkeye, but there was a catch. They were only offering him half of what he made for season 1.
They asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money. I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money. And so 8 months of my time, essentially, and to do it for half the amount.
Renner was understandably taken aback by this offer, especially considering that he was still recovering from his near-fatal accident. In the interview, he pointedly questioned whether Disney's reduced offer was somehow related to his injuries.
I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
The actor made it clear that he wasn't seeking an increase in pay. He simply expected to be compensated at the same rate as before.
And we didn't see eye to eye on that. And sadly, and I still love the character. I still love to do it. But I had to defend myself. I didn't ask for any more money, mind you, right? It just paid me what I made the first season.
What makes the situation even more interesting is that Renner specifically pointed out that the issue wasn't with Marvel Studios itself, but rather with Disney's financial decision makers.
Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? And this is not Marvel, mind you. This is like this Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to go fly a kite. I mean, just at the insult offer.
The actor's frustration is palpable, and it's not hard to understand why. After surviving an accident that nearly claimed his life and working hard through an extensive rehabilitation process, being offered half his previous salary for what he described as twice the amount of work feels like a slap in the face. Renner noted that the role would require an 8-month commitment, making the reduced pay even more unacceptable. While Renner expressed disappointment about the situation, he also found a silver lining, suggesting that perhaps his body would thank him for not taking on the demanding role so soon after his recovery.
So it's a little disheartening that didn't happen, but that's fine. I'm happy to let that go because my body's probably thanking me, time and time again that I'm not doing it right now. But we'll see.
Renner's revelation has sparked significant backlash against Disney on social media. On X, posts highlighting Disney's lowball offer to Renner after his accident have gained significant traction, with many fans expressing support for the actor and criticism of Disney's approach to talent compensation. The general sentiment online seems to be one of disappointment in Disney for what many perceive as disrespectful treatment of an original Avenger who has been with the franchise since nearly the beginning. This controversy is particularly noteworthy because it's not the first time Disney has faced backlash over its compensation practices for MCU stars. Now, with Renner's revelation about his Hawkeye Season 2 offer, it seems these tensions are far from resolved. The question becomes, is this latest controversy with Jeremy Renner just an isolated incident, or part of a broader pattern of discontent among Marvel stars that could spell trouble for Disney CEO Bob Iger? To answer that, we need to examine how other Avengers actors have been expressing their feelings about Disney's management in recent years, and whether there's a growing momentum of dissatisfaction that could potentially lead to major changes at the top of the Disney hierarchy. As of May 2025, there has been no official confirmation from Disney or Marvel Studios regarding a second season. However, some reports and industry insiders have speculated that filming might begin in fall 2025, with a potential release in late 2026 or early 2027, but these claims lack official corroboration. Renner's public statements indicate that he is not currently involved in the project, and his rejection of the initial offer suggests that any future season would require renegotiation. Some reports have speculated that Haley Steinfeld could return as Kate Bishop, potentially leading the series without Renner, but without an official statement from Disney, the project's status remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that Renner's story has struck a chord with fans and industry insiders alike, raising questions about how Disney values its talent, particularly those who have been integral to building the MCU into the global phenomenon it is today. Bob Iger's fall from grace, how Disney's CEO lost the public's trust. When Bob Iger returned as Disney's CEO in November 2022, following the abrupt dismissal of his successor Bob Chapek, the public response was overwhelmingly positive. Chapek's tenure had been marred by PR backlashes, a political battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Don't Say Gay bill, and unpopular operational changes like Disney Genie Plus and the park reservation systems. Social media platforms erupted with relief and celebration at the news of Iger's return, with thousands of posts and memes expressing joy at the leadership change. One ex-user referenced Chapek's infamous remark about adults not wanting animated movies, while another shared videos of Disney adults reacting positively to the news. Some even compared Iger to Thanos in a positive way, referencing the impact of his Marvel acquisition. The initial sentiment was clear. Iger's return was viewed as a return to stability and excellence after what many perceived as a chaotic period under Chapek. After all, Iger's previous 15-year tenure as CEO had been marked by significant acquisitions, including Lucasfilm, Pixar, and Marvel Studios, moves that transformed Disney into an entertainment powerhouse. Many fans saw this era as a golden age for the company and had high hopes that Iger's return would signal a similar period of prosperity and innovation. However, this honeymoon period didn't last long. By mid-2023, fan sentiment toward Iger had begun to sour dramatically. One of the major turning points came during the Writers Guild of America, WGA, and Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, strikes, which paralyzed much of Hollywood in 2023. Iger's comments about the strikes were widely perceived as tone-deaf and elitist. He described the writers' and actors' demands as not realistic and labeled the strikes as disruptive, remarks that sparked significant backlash, especially given his own substantial compensation. According to Wikipedia, Iger's annual salary was approximately $27 million, a stark contrast to the average writer's salary of around $65,000 per year. On social media, fans expressed their anger, with many showing sympathy for the striking writers and actors while criticizing Iger's enormous pay disparity. On Reddit, particularly in the R Out of the Loop thread titled, "What's the deal with people suddenly hating Bob Iger recently?" users shared their frustration with Iger's stance. One ex-user posted a particularly damning comparison, highlighting the difference between Disney's actions against strikers and Universal's approach, further fueling the growing discontent with Iger's leadership. But the strikes were just one factor in Iger's declining popularity. His financial decisions have also drawn significant criticism. Fans on forums like Disboards noted Iger's role in leaving Disney with substantial debt, primarily from investments in the Disney Plus streaming platform. There was also considerable backlash when news broke that Disney, under Iger's leadership, was looking to sell off assets like ABC, FX, and Freeform. Adding to the image problem was the revelation that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Iger had forfeited his $3 million chairman's salary, but kept his $46 million CEO compensation, a move many saw as disingenuous at best. These decisions contributed to a growing perception that Iger prioritized profits over people, with comments on Reddit going so far as to label him a scumbag CEO. The issues didn't stop there. Despite Iger's return, many fans felt that Disney's theme parks and content quality hadn't improved as hoped. A Los Angeles Times article noted ongoing fan fury over theme park price hikes and other challenges that continued under Iger's second tenure. The failure of high-profile projects like the Star Wars Hotel, mentioned in an Inside the Magic article, only added to the growing frustration. By late 2023, online forums reflected a mix of disappointment and calls for change. A Disboards post linked to a Business Insider article highlighting low staff morale, layoffs of 7,000 people, and cost cuts of $5.5 billion, all of which likely influenced fan sentiment. Comments on the forum included hopes for a turnaround, but also uncertainty, with one fan stating, "Disney needs to decide if it wants to be a social activist or a profitable company," reflecting the polarization in views about the company's direction. But perhaps most troubling for Iger has been Disney's handling of its live-action Snow White remake, which was released on March 21, 2025. The film, which cost over $270 million to produce, has been a focal point of controversy on multiple fronts, from casting decisions to story changes and the political views of its stars. The casting controversy began in June 2021, when Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, was cast as Snow White. This decision led to racist backlash from some critics who argued she didn't fit the traditional image of the character, described as having skin as white as snow. Zegler defended her casting, emphasizing the importance of representation, but the debate continued to simmer. In 2023, she even pleaded on X to avoid being tagged in discourse about the role. Then there was the issue of how the film would portray the Seven Dwarfs. In January 2022, Peter Dinklage criticized the remake for its portrayal of dwarfs, calling it backwards. Despite the progressive casting of Zegler, Disney responded by saying they would consult with the dwarfism community to avoid stereotypes, but this led to further complications. Dylan Postal criticized Dinklage for potentially taking jobs away from actors with dwarfism. And in February 2025, Disney revealed that only Martin Klebe, an actor with dwarfism, would be among the 7 CGI dwarfs. This decision was criticized by Ali Chapman for excluding other little people. The controversies continued with Zegler's comments about the original 1937 film. In September 2022, she called the original Snow White outdated and criticized the love story as weird, leading to backlash from fans and David Hale Hand, son of the original director, who called the remake a disgrace. This led to the Daily Wire announcing a competing Snow White adaptation focusing on timeless values. Further complicating matters were on-set photos from July 2023, showing magical creatures instead of dwarfs, causing confusion. Disney clarified they were fake or stand-ins, but Postal expressed disappointment, highlighting missed opportunities for actors with dwarfism. The political views of the film's stars also became a flashpoint. Gal Gadot's pro-Israel stance following the October 7, 2023, Hamas attacks led to boycott calls, while Zegler reaffirmed her pro-Palestine stance, creating tension between the co-stars. Media outlets like Newsweek highlighted these tensions, adding another layer of controversy to the project. In November 2024, Zegler criticized Trump's re-election, calling for no peace for his supporters, which led to calls for a boycott from MAGA supporters. She later apologized on Instagram after Megyn Kelly demanded Disney fire her. The fallout from these controversies was significant. Disney scaled back the film's premiere, limiting it to photographers and house interviewers. While Klebe claimed this was due to the Zegler controversy, sources downplayed tensions. Nonetheless, the film opened to mixed reviews and underwhelming box office projections of $45 million to $55 million, lagging behind other Disney remakes. There's also been a major legal controversy that has tarnished Disney's image under Iger's leadership. In October 2023, a patron at Walt Disney World Resort died from a severe allergic reaction after eating at a restaurant on the property, leading to a wrongful death lawsuit filed in February 2024 by her husband, alleging negligence. The incident involved Dr. Kanokporn Tangswan, who had severe dairy and nut allergies, and allegedly chose the restaurant due to assurances it could accommodate her needs. Disney initially sought to dismiss the case by invoking arbitration clauses from the husband's 2019 Disney Plus free trial agreement, arguing it extended to all disputes with Disney affiliates. This move was widely criticized as surreal. Following the backlash, Disney reversed course in August 2024, with Josh D'Amaro stating, "At Disney, we strive to put humanity above all other considerations," and agreed to waive arbitration. The case is now set for court, with a hearing initially scheduled for October 2, 2024, but canceled after Disney's reversal. As of May 2025, the lawsuit remains ongoing, raising questions about arbitration clause, enforceability. Adding to Disney's woes under Iger's leadership have been operational controversies, particularly around price increases and changes to guest services. Disney World has implemented significant price hikes for 2025 tickets, increasing by $5 to $10 for most dates from January through October, with peak season prices for November and December hitting new record highs. Several dining options have also seen increases, with character meals like Crystal Palace rising to $52 per adult for breakfast, up from $48, and $62 for lunch, dinner, up from $61. In 2024, Disney overhauled the Disability Access Service, DAS program, intended for guests with developmental disabilities, drawing backlash for being less accommodating. To offset some of these costs, Disney introduced discounts like free water park tickets for on-site hotel guests in 2025, but this hasn't fully addressed the concerns about affordability. Reports indicate that there have been internal discussions at Disney about the high prices, with some executives worrying that the company has reached affordability limits for middle-class Americans. Upon his return as CEO, Iger reportedly asked for strategies to win win back fans, including freezing ticket increases, but the continued price hikes suggest these concerns haven't translated into meaningful policy changes. One of the most significant political controversies during Iger's second tenure has been Disney's feud with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Parental Rights in Education Bill, commonly known as the Don't Say Gay Bill. This legislation, signed into law in March 2022 before Iger's return, prohibited classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through third grade in Florida public schools. While the initial controversy began under former CEO Bob Chapek, it escalated into 2023 and 2024. Disney initially faced internal and external backlash for remaining silent on the bill, with employees staging walkouts and protests. After public pressure, Disney publicly opposed the bill, calling for its repeal, which led to a direct confrontation with DeSantis. In April 2022, DeSantis signed a bill to dissolve Disney's special tax district, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which had allowed Disney to self-govern its operations in Florida. This move was widely interpreted as retaliation for Disney's stance, sparking a legal battle that continued into 2024. Disney alleged retaliation for its free speech, while DeSantis countersued, claiming Disney was attempting to undermine state authority. However, on March 28, 2024, Disney and a board appointed by DeSantis settled their lawsuits, resolving the dispute over the district's control. The settlement made a last-minute agreement by Disney null and void, and allowed the board to work with Disney on updating the district's comprehensive plan. Disney committed to investing at least $30 billion over the next decade in its theme parks, including $17 billion in Orlando. While this settlement represented a resolution to the immediate legal battle, the reputational damage to Disney and the perception that the company had been outmaneuvered by DeSantis continued to linger, further contributing to the declining faith in Iger's leadership. All of these controversies have contributed to a growing sense that Iger's second tenure as Disney CEO has not lived up to the high expectations set when he returned in 2022. What was initially seen as a triumphant return to form for the company has instead become a period marked by controversy, financial struggles, and declining public trust. But has this discontent reached a level where Iger's position could actually be in jeopardy? Marvel's Civil War. Are other Avengers stars joining the rebellion against Disney? The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the crown jewel of Disney's entertainment empire since the company acquired Marvel in 2009. The interconnected superhero franchise has generated billions at the box office and helped launch Disney Plus to streaming prominence. But behind the scenes, a different kind of Avengers story has been unfolding, one where the stars who helped build this juggernaut have increasingly found themselves at odds with the studio's decision-makers. While Jeremy Renner's recent salary dispute over Hawkeye Season 2 has grabbed headlines, he's far from the only Marvel actor to have voiced concerns about Disney's approach to talent management and creative decisions. In fact, looking at the past decade, we can see a pattern of tensions between the Avengers stars and the studio that has only intensified in recent years. One of the most significant disputes involves Scarlett Johansson, who played Natasha Romanoff Black Widow in the MCU for over a decade. In July 2021, Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney in Los Angeles Superior Court, alleging breach of contract over the release strategy for Black Widow. The film was released simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access, a decision Johansson claimed reduced her earnings, as her contract tied a significant portion of her compensation to box office performance. Johansson's legal team argued that Disney's dual release strategy, motivated by the COVID-19 pandemic, siphoned potential theatergoers, costing her tens of millions in potential earnings. Disney responded aggressively, revealing her $20 million base salary and claiming she was being insensitive to the pandemic's impact, which only escalated the public nature of the dispute. The lawsuit was eventually settled in October 2021, with terms not disclosed. After the settlement, Johansson stated, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney," and Disney's Alan Bergman expressed a desire for future collaborations, including a planned Tower of Terror project. Another MCU actor who has expressed frustration with the franchise is Chris Hemsworth, who portrays Thor. In 2023 and 2024 interviews, Hemsworth expressed dissatisfaction with his performance in Thor: Love and Thunder 2022, calling it too silly and feeling he became a parody of himself. While this was more of a creative self-critique than a direct controversy with Disney, it reflected growing concerns about the direction of certain MCU characters and narratives. In a later interview with Vanity Fair, Hemsworth expanded on his frustrations with the Marvel formula, suggesting that the studio's approach had become too rigid and predictable. While he didn't directly criticize Disney's management, his comments added to the sense that even the franchise's biggest stars were becoming disenchanted with the creative decisions being made. More recently, in January 2025, Anthony Mackie, who took on the role of Sam Wilson, Captain America, following The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, found himself at the center of a controversy during the promotional tour for Captain America Brave New World in Rome. Mackie stated, "For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations, emphasizing values like honor, dignity, and integrity as universal rather than nationally specific." These comments drew significant backlash, particularly from conservative groups, who interpreted them as unpatriotic. Social media saw calls for a boycott, with some labeling the film woke garbage. Facing the backlash, Mackie clarified his stance on Instagram stories, stating, "Let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to." The film's director, Julius Ona, also defended Mackie, telling Variety that the comments were misinterpreted, emphasizing themes of community and empathy in the film, aligning with Mackie's portrayal of Sam Wilson. But perhaps one of the most telling examples of the complicated relationship between Marvel actors and Disney can be found by looking back at Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, Hulk. Unlike many of his fellow Avengers, Ruffalo has never received a solo Hulk film, despite being a fan favorite. This isn't due to lack of interest from the actor or audiences, but rather because of complex licensing issues between Marvel Studios and Universal Pictures. As reported by Hindustan Times, Universal Pictures still holds the distribution rights to any standalone Hulk films, which has prevented Disney from producing a Ruffalo-led Hulk movie. While this situation predates Iger's current tenure, it represents another instance where business decisions have impacted the creative and professional opportunities for Marvel stars, contributing to a sense that the actor's interests aren't always prioritized. Looking at these examples collectively, a pattern emerges. Marvel's stars have repeatedly found themselves at odds with Disney's business practices, creative decisions, and public relations strategies. While not every actor has directly criticized Bob Iger or called for his removal, the accumulation of these incidents creates an environment where talent feels undervalued or constrained. Precisely the sentiment that Jeremy Renner expressed in his recent interview about the Hawkeye salary dispute. But is there any evidence that these various controversies could actually lead to Iger's removal as CEO? When Iger returned as CEO in November 2022, it was initially described as a temporary arrangement, with the intention of finding a permanent successor within 2 years. However, in July 2023, Disney announced that Iger had agreed to extend his contract through December 31st, 2026, giving him more time to navigate the company through various challenges and groom a successor. In January 2025, Disney appointed James Gorman, the former CEO of Morgan Stanley, as chairman of the board, with plans to announce Iger's replacement as CEO in early 2026. This timeline suggests that Disney is committed to an orderly transition of power, rather than an abrupt dismissal of Iger. Furthermore, while Iger has certainly faced criticism, there's no evidence of a coordinated effort among Marvel stars or other stakeholders to have him removed. The controversies we've examined, including Renner's salary dispute, seem to be isolated incidents rather than part of a larger campaign against Iger's leadership. It's also worth noting that Iger's compensation for 2024 was reported to be $41 million in January 2025, suggesting that the Disney board still has confidence in his leadership despite the various controversies. This represents a significant increase from his previous compensation package, further indicating that his position is not immediately threatened. That said, the cumulative impact of these controversies could certainly influence Disney's long-term leadership plans, especially if they begin to affect the company's bottom line or cause high-profile talent to seek opportunities elsewhere. The entertainment industry is heavily reliant on relationships and reputation, and a perception that Disney doesn't treat its stars fairly could make it harder for the company to attract and retain top talent in the future. As for the specific issue of Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye Season 2, it's unclear how this will ultimately be resolved. Disney has not publicly responded to Renner's claims about the salary offer, although a Disney insider reportedly disputed his account, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Given the public backlash, it's possible that Disney might reconsider its approach and come back with a more favorable offer, especially if they believe Hawkeye Season 2 has significant commercial potential. But for now, all of this remains speculative. While the controversies we've examined certainly paint a picture of growing discontent with Disney's leadership under Iger, there's no concrete evidence that his position is in imminent danger, or that a coordinated rebellion of Marvel stars is underway. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, Click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.